Yes. NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Neuro, straightforward, refers to our brain and neurophysiology. It's kind of obvious. Linguistic programming. So the L in NLP refers to language, the importance of language. Now, I can't remember whether I spoke to you about how our capacity to talk about our experience, to think about our thinking, was only made possible 200,000 years ago when the neocortex, the forebrain, began to form. Now, I've asked ChatGTP, and the answers I get about why that happened are very vague. So I'm assuming we just don't really know why the human mammal started to form this forebrain. You know, the brains in humans are very uneconomical in terms of the use of energy. I think our brains take up about 30% of our calories, the energy that comes from our calories. So it doesn't make too much evolutionary sense. But anyway, the neocortex started to form about 200,000 years ago. Other experts in the field tell us that our capacity to use language to communicate with one another, ultimately to use language to time bind through writing so that I can benefit from the writings of a generation before, all of that capacity started to develop in us around 25,000 years ago, according to the writer of Sapiens, and others would say earlier than that. But still, it's a blink of an eye, right? So up to the point that we developed language, we were just existing in our environments, responding to the triggers in the environment that threatened our physical safety. We had no idea about the future or the past in that sense. We had no capacity to invent a persona. The avatar called Mark Harris didn't exist before language. Didn't exist. Now, one of the intriguing things, well, I find it intriguing, is that as I'm talking to you now, I am not completely aware of the words I'm going to say before they come out of my mouth. Now, and it sometimes feels that I'm speaking in a vacuum, that my words just come out. But that cannot be so. You know, if you think about it, for a moment, my words are based on that internal simulation that's running in the background outside of my awareness. My words are referring to those encoded experiences. Now, that must be true. If you think about how everyone learned their mother tongue, that process was deeply unconscious. You know, it went on over time, and we developed reference points to words. Apple, there is almost certainly an internal representation of an apple. Now, in a split second, when I am listening to another native speaker or any speaker, I have to go inside, all happening unconsciously. I have to go inside, find reference points for that word. And then with those reference points in mind, I start to piece together what the other person is saying to me. Now, all of this is happening outside of awareness. So you could say, as you listen to me now, you are hearing a commentary on my internal simulation. You are getting hints as to how my internal experience of this moment is structured. My words are giving you a clue about my internal structure. So every word, I would say, tone of voice, breathing pattern, musculature of the face, all of that is giving you clues to the internal structure of my world. The things that I leave out, the things that I've deleted or generalized, underneath all of those surface level omissions is a much deeper map, a much deeper simulation that's running in the background outside of my awareness. In fact, you're more likely to pick up on those structural nuances than I am. So, first point, you listen to me, you're hearing this commentary. Insights into how I see the world, how it's structured. The second component of this is that as you listen to me, I am offering the system a direction for your meaning-making journey. Right. Now that's quite profound, because that is happening outside of your awareness. You're not aware consciously of the directions I'm sending you in terms of your meaning-making journey. Why is that important? Well, I'll tell you why it's important. Heidegger said that language is the house of being wherein mankind dwells. Our experience is shaped by languaging. I spoke to a woman the other day from Germany who, well, it was more like a year ago, probably longer than that. And she'd not consider her birth experience as having been traumatic until she went to debrief. Now, she'd had a forceps birth, and when the birth professional was reviewing her notes, she noticed, so my client noticed that in the notes, under the reason for this instrumental birth, was these words. Are you ready for this? Reason for forceps, lack of maternal effort. I kid you not. Now, in that moment, this woman, outside of her awareness, has searched all of her encoded experiences where she did not achieve the result that she desired because she didn't try hard enough. And she said in that moment, the whole birth experience became her fault. She was to blame. And it could have been different if she'd tried harder. What a scandal that someone could imagine using those kind of words is a good thing. You don't have to know about the nuances of language to realize that that birth professional that wrote that was probably, unknowing to them, acting as one arsehole, but also acting as a very powerful hypnotist, influencing this woman's encoding of her experience and not really realizing or knowing it. Now, once we begin to realize how deeply powerful our language choices are to influencing others, we can start to use this understanding in a proactive way, in a way that facilitates another person accessing resources, not failure. So, for example, I might see a couple walk into the room and I notice that her partner appears to be on edge and agitated. There's stuff in his body movements that I'm picking up on. And I might say to him something like, look, mate, I don't know when you're going to begin to relax. You know, it might be as you find walking around in the room and checking stuff out, or it might be when you pick one of these really comfortable, relaxing chairs. But as you begin to relax, you'll notice now the presuppositions in my language are not picked up consciously by the person hearing them. But in order to make sense, and in that split second, the brain responds by initiating a motor response. So the client begins to feel the beginnings of what it feels like for them to be relaxed. Now, I've been cut off a couple of times, so I'm going to bring this to an end, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I don't know how to